UConn's next point guard is somewhere in this portal, and the solution at power forward could come from the other side of the world. Let's connect the dots. All right, welcome to the Hoops Cap Pod, powered by the Big East Energy Network. I'm your host, Mark Zanetto. Welcome to the show. Hopefully you're making this part of your new daily routine. You're home for UConn men's and women's basketball. We're available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Big East Podcast Network, where passion meets precision. Before we dive into today's show, we want to take a moment to say how thankful we are for all of you. And if you haven't already if you already haven't subscribed, do so now. Download it on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. I think we're on Apple Music or Amazon Music as well. We're proud to say we're the only daily podcast covering UConn men's and women's basketball, the hoops capital of the world, and we're thrilled to bring you the coverage that you deserve. So, how are we doing here? The Portal Watch. I know some of you hate this part of the year, and some of you love it because it's like NFL free agency. I think I'm somewhere in the middle. From a content creation standpoint, it definitely gets engagement up because people want to know what you know, and it also, there's issues that are always going to arrive from doing this. Right now, the biggest target for UConn is Silas DeMaurier Jr., the former Georgia guard, 6'5", combo guard with size and defensive potential. Does he fit UConn's mold? Absolutely. He's 6'5". He handles the ball all the time. I wouldn't call him a true point guard, but as you're looking at this Duke team that's dominating the NCAA tournament field, who's their point guard? Is it Tyrese Proctor, who's more of a combo guard? Is it I forget the Tulane transfer. His name's right on the tip of my tongue. I'll get to that later. But you don't need the traditional 6'2", 6'3", shorter point guard like an RJ Cole, but they created Tristan Newton's leap in his transfer from East Carolina. He's got great pace, loves the transition game. Saw a great comment on the Big East Energy Network show asking about, like, can this guy handle the intensity of the Big East? Because it's just a different world. And I know you're seeing, are there 3 SEC teams in the Final Four? You have, no, there's 2. You have Auburn and Florida, right? But there could have been 3. Hell, there probably could have been 4 if you think about it, because, the SEC was really good. The bottom tier of the SEC wasn't that great, and Georgia would be one of those teams. But the bottom line is the Big East is a, knock on, drag out, beat you up, having to deal with James Breeding and, officials, and you're just not going to get the same calls you get in the SEC. And I'm not saying the SEC is softer. It's just a different game. We've seen a guy like Aiden Mahaney come in and struggle with that physicality. And I think that's the reason why people, and myself included, were questioning whether this is the right fit. It's not because the kid can't play. He clearly can. Average almost 14 points a game in the best league in the country right now. And, he's kind of I think he's in between kind of like an RJ Cole and a Tristan Newton, because he's got Tristan's size, but he's got a little more stature to him, a little bit thicker in that RJ Cole mind. Silas is potentially coming from the SEC in Georgia. What would his arrival mean in terms of, are they going to continue to go after other portal guys like a Bryce Lindsey, who's the guard from James Madison? He's a former top 150 recruit. He's got a high motor. He's a good shooter. Is that more of, not necessarily a developmental piece but is he a plug and play guy? Or is he a guy that would still come to UConn as a backup? And I doubt that's the case. Like, I don't think you're going to get very many Joey Californias that can be or Naheem Aleems that could be really good transfer portal pieces without the ability to sell them on the opportunity to start. And if you're bringing in Silas, that's probably, even if you tell him that, it's probably not 100% the truth. And listen, you could always fall back on, no one's guaranteed a starting spot. I think every coach preaches that, but the vision is to have you start if you're coming in from a larger program, and then coming and taking a step up in terms of the pressure and the intensity of a UConn, right? And I don't think whether it's Bryce Lindsey or whether it's Silas DeMaurier or a guard, Elliot Cadeau was initially targeted by UConn, but he just committed to Michigan. So regardless of whether they go with the mold of what Dan Hurley wants, as looked at by the McDonald's All-Americans that we have coming in, the incoming freshmen that are all 6'5" and above, outside of Eric Ryba, those 3 guard/wings, that's what they like. If they could have their druthers, they 100% want DeMaurier Jr. versus having a shorter guard like a Nick Boyd or even like a Donovan Dent. Donovan Dent is probably the best point guard in the country, but he's 6'2". But that's perfectly fine. But again, UConn likes to have these guys, who aren't vertically challenged, who aren't like me, who are like 5'11", 6 foot. Could Lindsey be a culture guy in that Joey California mold? Potentially, but again, I don't think so because he's running the show at James Madison. His intention in the portal, from my understanding, is to move up a level and test himself and show he belongs. Could he be a starting point guard option for UConn? Absolutely. Could be that chip on the shoulder guy? Sure. Probably feels like he has always belonged at a high major, and UConn, despite the early exit in this year's tournament, is the highest of majors with the most pressure on them. My biggest thing right now is it's tough for the waiting game. This portal watch is kind of mentally draining, not only on fans, more so the coaches and the players, because you're waiting for all these dominoes to drop. And we're going to get to that in the next segment when we talk about Terrace Reed in the waiting game. But what are some options to replace him if he does go? Yusuf Singari just entered the transfer portal. From everything I've heard, he's a great dude, absolute vibes guy, and people are going to miss him. But it opens up another front court spot. Not shocking, but significant in that respect. I think I read Oscar Clough, the North Dakota State, South Dakota State center, who's the number 1 portal guy in the country, according to On3, 6'11" rim protector, but can absolutely be a fantastic rebounder and shot blocker. I do think he committed to Purdue. I'm going to double check that really quick while we're talking about this. Yep, that's confirmed. Oscar Clough is going to Purdue. Matt Painter and Biggs, man, there's something about him. They like his style. Honestly, that's a good fit for him. I don't know if UConn style is what he would envision when he was getting into the transfer portal. But there is this guy, and Magoon Guath from San Diego State. He's raw. He's athletic, but he's 7 foot, and he's a rim runner. He kind of reminds me of like a Josh Boone type. I don't know if he can shoot. I haven't seen it, but I think that's a guy that you could bring in here if by any shape of the imagination they lose Terrace, who we're going to talk about here in a second. But, if anything, to essentially have a 2-headed monster, the way that they've talked about it. And I know Eric Ryba is coming in, but Eric is different than the 2-headed monsters they've had in the past. I know Sonogo could step out and shoot threes his senior year, but man, it'd be good. I'm telling you, like that just to me it's a great fit for what they want to do defensively. He played at San Diego State under Brian Dutcher, who Dan absolutely respects and loves. So he could potentially, obviously get the lowdown on that. And they play a similar style in the respect that they can get out and run, but they want to beat you up physically. They want to play good defense, even though that wasn't the case this year for UConn. This kid is a freshman, is a redshirt freshman. So if you get him and he likes it, he's with you potentially till he goes to the NBA. And make no mistake about it, that would be pretty soon because 7-footers don't grow on trees. He's definitely not ready right now, but he's got the athleticism to potentially do that. And then lastly, for me, the wild card, this would be a big splash outside of just the combo guards is Malik Mbaku, Mackenzie Mbaku, not Malik Renault. I'm not as big a fan of him. I know he's higher in the portal rankings from Indiana. But Mackenzie Mbaku is that former 5-star that if they don't go with a smaller conference guy like Amari Monroe from Quinnipiac, I think that's kind of where they would go because he could play the 4. He's 6'8". He's physical, played in the Big Ten. And I think that's a big fit for UConn. They offered him as a freshman, so he's familiar with the staff. To me, it makes sense. UConn's never been a volume portal team. They're a precision portal team. And these names, they're all targeted fits. So buckle up. We're going to talk about what's next coming up after this. And we're back on the Hoops Cat Pod, powered by Big East Energy. Soon to have a few sponsors coming our way. If you are interested in sponsoring, make sure you hit me up on either at Big East Energy on Twitter, but also you can email us at bigeastenergy at gmail.com or at mark at bigeastenergy.com. Hopefully you got all that. Sorry. Yeah, so Terrace Reed in the waiting game. I think for me, sometimes no news is good news, right? But in the case of Terrace Reed, I think it's the calm before the storm. And I mean that because a lot of dominoes will drop depending on his decision. And I reported on Saturday, I did an emergency pod, that there was, some movement with him and that he was likely going to enter the portal. What I'm going to do is I'm not revealing my source by any shape of the imagination. I think that would be really foolish, and obviously you lose a lot of credibility in this world. But what I can tell you is that I can show you a just so everyone understands. I didn't pull this out of thin air. This is something that was texted to me from a trusted source that's really close to the team. And some of you would be like, oh, yeah, who? And it's not that. It's really just not about that. I think for me, the biggest issues are people are still salty with me since I said the move to the Big 12 was imminent. And I was wrong to double down on that. And I've literally owned that on every single step of this journey of being in this UConn content creation, from Locked On to now the Hoops Cat Pod. And, the same source that told me we were in talks with the Big 12 and that this was something that eventually was imminent and that he was wrong about, the New York Times and Ross Dellinger at Yahoo came out with the story that UConn had been in talks for a while. And I'm not here to relitigate that. The bottom line is this: whether it's on the Hoops Cap, Big East Energy Weekly, or any other shows on our network, opinions will always be had. Sources will remain nameless unless they say otherwise, and I will be wrong again, 1,000%. I will also be right sometimes. And being half right is sometimes worse. So in the case of Terrace Reed, I was told in a text message, which I followed up with, FY, and I'm going to just show it to you. I'm going to show you the text without revealing who it is and all that stuff. Let's see if I can get you squared away here so you can see this. All right, so let's read it together. Again, this is a screenshot from my phone. It does not reveal who sent the text. I made sure of it. I got to get rid of that. Who knows about it? Aiden is probably going. Ross is up in the air. Solo is testing the draft. So if you're me in this situation and you get that text on a Saturday, what do? Do you sit on it? Do you, knowing you have this show, do you, I'm just curious. When I put this out there, please write back to me. Literally, I would love to hear what you have to say, because for me, I took that as, okay, well, this is some news. And, now we're sitting here where people are telling me that I'm wrong, and that's fine. I hope I'm wrong. I want to be wrong on this. And now I'm kind of questioning the person that sent me the text, but we'll go from there. Yeah. So now that we got that out of the way, what's to explain with some of these delays, right? Is it evaluating fit with your agent, with your family, your inner circle? I mean, all these guys are doing that, whether it's Liam declaring for the draft, whether it's Alex deciding what he's going to do, whether it's Solo deciding whether or not he, wants to, get some feedback and go to the draft and kind of get an evaluation for his draft status. With Terra, same thing. Is it about NIL conversions and conversations unfolding? Is it maybe was there a flip after he spoke to his parents or agent or whatever. And then there's the Aiden stuff, right? That's Terrace's roommate. Is there any smoke there? Because that text, if we show it again, Aiden is, likely going to. Not as definitive. Like if you go back to it, go back to the let's go back to the just FYI, Reed is entering the portal. It's not, hey, Terrace Reed is 50-50. You know what I'm saying? Like Aiden is probably going, Ross is up in the air, solo testing the draft. So like I just need everyone to kind of understand that like this is the shit that's been sent to me, right? Could they both go? I think the answer to that question is still yes. And I, like what's Dan Hurley's sales pitch? Is there a thought that you want to build off of the 6 Man of the Year award with Aiden? It's probably something to the effect of you started to create a niche for yourself in this team, and that could grow next year because you know what to expect. So that's kind of where we're at. The silence is either a signal that UConn's working behind the scenes or a sign that we're days away from a major shakeup. So either way, stay with us to kind of update you. I don't have anything. I haven't gotten any new news. Like I said, no news is sometimes good news sometimes. So we're going to take a quick break and we're going to talk about this freshman class in the McDonald's All-American game that is coming up after the break. All right, you're back on the Hoopscat Pod. We talked about the portal watch, the Terrace Reed and the rest of the crew waiting game. And now we're going to turn our attention to the future. 3 future Huskies in the McDonald's All-American game tonight. And if what they're saying is any hint, UConn's next era might be its hungriest. Braylon Adams, elite shot creator, absolute best form I've seen in a while from a shooter. We joked around calling him Teen Wolf, but based off of his high school's jersey, looking just like the Michael J. Fox early 80s funny movie. Nostalgia wise, go check that out if you haven't seen it yet. It's remarkable to watch UConn in March, and I can't wait. The Indiana flip rumor, absolutely dead. Never wasn't even a consideration. Mike Woodson's out. Who cares? Darius Adams, confident, polished, already calling shots, talking about an interview with Corey Alexander of ESPN. Braylon and I are going to be really hard to stop. Eric Riba, quietly, just kind of under the radar, in my opinion. He's 7 foot. He's a stretch 5. Said UConn's early exit only motivates me to work harder. That mindset, that UConn Husky mindset is what I love about all of these guys. They all said, I think Darius said this, Braylon, et cetera, that they watched UConn and all they could think about was wanting to be out there to help them, right? I would imagine if you're Darius or Braylon and Eric, who can shoot the 3, with all the open 3s they missed against Florida, they were thinking, man, I wish I could play right now because, I knocked down a few of those shots and we're going to the Sweet 16. And then to me, the guy that we're not talking about because he's not American and he's not a McDonald's All-American, I'm going to steal a line from Steve Forbes. He famously said, I don't recruit McDonald's All-Americans. I recruit Burger King All-Americans that want to kick McDonald's All-Americans' ass. So Jacob Furphy has a little bit of that. He's a Aussie. They're usually pretty tough. They have an international flair to them. He's a lefty. I think he could be a really intriguing fit. Could Jacob actually be the glue wing this class doesn't know it needs? And I think it's possible because it's so hard to get an evaluation based off of, video you're seeing from the NBA Global Academy. And that's something that I'm saying, but also echoing, scouts that travel and go see these guys in person. And Adam Finkelstein was on the show and he said that that's the biggest wild card essentially, right? Could he be the best player in this recruiting class? Maybe, but it's hard to kind of put a finger on it, right? So that to me is going to be the most interesting thing leading into next season is where these guys all shake out. Because last year we had a top 10 recruiting class. You knew Liam was good. There was promise with Ahmad that never came to fruition because he is, got injured and, the Aiden stuff didn't really kind of go their way. So they were trying to tweak things, and it just never worked out. Like the timing didn't work, right? So now he's in the portal. Same thing with Isaiah Abraham, a top 75 recruit. I think he was 60 something. Showed a lot of promise in like the practice, and there was some hype around him as well. And for all intents and purposes, you hear great things about his character, but he never really got an opportunity to get minutes, and it's just a tough situation. So, but with these guys, their pedigree, they're all McDonald's All-Americans. They're going to have a leg up on Jacob. Like they like Jacob, and I know that the staff does, but he's going to have to come in with a chip on his shoulder, ready to rock, or he's going to be on the bench. But I do feel like there's something about when you watch his game on these clips that really translates to what UConn does on offense. And he could potentially see some time at that kind of like smaller lineup, the Alex Caravan 6'7", 6'8", stretch 4, because he's a bigger kid. He's 220. He's not, going to get pushed around as much once he gets used to the physicality of the Big East. So that's what I'm looking for right now, guys. The class of 25 is coming with something to prove. And if they're as good as they sound, the Klingon era might just be the prologue. We're going for the 7th national title, the 3rd for Dan Hurley in maybe 4 years. And stay with us because we're going to cover it all at the Hoopscat Pod, powered by the Big East Energy Network. This has been another episode of the Hoopscat Pod. I'm your host, Mark Zanetto. Stay with us. Stay connected. Make sure you're following all of our socials at Mark Zanetto CBB, at the Hoopscat Pod on Instagram, X. We'll get a TikTok going. I think there already is one. I know Bella's working on that. Just it's going to be a lot of good stuff coming down the pike. Talk to you guys soon. Go Huskies.